Okay, welcome everyone, and hopefully no audio problems tonight because that sickens me. So let's check it out first. All right, so welcome to the show. Tonight is Thursday, December 19th. Unless you're somewhere else or some other time or on a replay, then it's clearly some other time. But regardless, welcome to you, everyone in the chat. It's good to see you here. If you're just lurking, please join the chat. And if you're on a replay, please join the comment section. Just leave your little comments down below. We love them. Um, so it's good to see all of that. And I will say hello to you before we get started. We've got a lot to cover tonight, and glad you are here. So let's do this. Let's start off with checking in on my chat here. So we got Sarah and Amy and Bonnie. All right, and Untamable, Jenny 33. We got Nobody Nothing, Carla Ann, Five Green Acres, David Gray, Christina, Marley. We got Spike Dog, Kay, Tracy Fleetwood, Niobe, Donnie Kuntz, Corner Piece, Ali, Carol, I'll allow it, Stephanie, Andre, Heavy Metal Rehab. We got Bella's in Wonderland, Joey Lau, Mel, Joanne Laverne, and Grateful Seven, the band Via, Teresa, Shirley Clifford. Did I say David Rogers yet? But welcome to David Rogers. We got Pam, Wendy, okay, Five Green Acres, Audra Kessler, Dawn Steele, Marianne, Lissa Ann Rebel 6, Joyce Smith, Sweet and Salty, Moonbeam 70s Child, and whoever else is here. I'm just glad you're here. And look, if you're lurking, go ahead and lurk, but say hello in the chat before you stop chatting and then continue to lurk. We got PS and Jonathan Smith. Hello, and Beth. Hey, Jade. Good. See, thanks for dipping in and letting us know you're here. So thank you. Boy, tonight we should have an interesting show. There's a lot to cover. And so I will try. What's up, little boy blue from England? And anyone else. So thanks for coming in. Please hit the thumbs up on your way in and all of that stuff. Support the channel as well. I see Amy has put up our support pathways. We have Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee. We've got a GoFundMe for some legal fees and all the other stuff. So go ahead and do that if you'd like to. Curious Chickpea, what's up? Stacy Stevens. Glad to see everyone. So look, let's get started. We do have a lot to go through, and hope you appreciate the thumbnail. So here we go. We're going to start off with a little look at our sentencing memorandum. And those of you who have not heard or read this yet, this is a good one. What's up, Sweet Dude Shibby? This is a good one for you, and you need to be aware of this. So we will do it, okay? So those of you who have not yet heard this, pay attention because this is good stuff, right? And what's up, ACV? All right. Thanks, everyone in here. Thank you for being in here. Sentencing memorandum, okay? This is from yesterday, filed yesterday. It's a good one. So comes now defendant Richard Allen through Baldwin, Rozzi, and Auger in anticipation of the sentencing hearing tomorrow, which is sure to be a circus. Respectfully request the court to fashion an appropriate sentence in recognition of the foregoing memorandum. Okay. Practical sentencing issues and constraints. So we're going to go through this word for word. We're not going to miss a single thing. So I want you to really let's listen word for word. Okay, we're not going to waste uh, any attention here. So Richard Allen maintains his innocence and is hopeful that the appellate process will provide him with an opportunity to present a full defense at a second trial. Whoa, that's rich. That is rich. See, I can't even get through a sentence without commenting. So I guess I'll be commenting. Why would our attorneys present a statement such as this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because he was not allowed to present any defense whatsoever by our unhinged, biased, insane, bloodlusty judge. Okay, who I'm sure was her thirst for blood was really satiated yesterday with the execution of someone whose trial she presided over yesterday. I said yesterday that we have three sacrifices. We had the sacrifice of Libby, then we had the sacrifice of Richard Allen, and then yesterday we had the sacrifice of a death row inmate, first time in 15 years. What are the odds that at the very time the state is trying to put to rest the case of the murders of Abby and Libby, it is celebrated with a blood sacrifice? And that was achieved yesterday. And I'm sure our judge was licking her lips all day. And I did notice that she celebrated the execution of that man yesterday. If none of you paid attention to her proclamations, you might have missed that she was licking her lips with bloodthirst yesterday. Anyhow, I guess I'm a little upset, so I'm kind of rambling on. What I am saying is that this first sentence is pretty good, that Richard Allen maintains his innocence. Okay, first point. Second point is hopeful that the appellate process will allow him an opportunity to present a full defense at a second trial. And hey, I think that's what we all want, because we are confident this is a railroading of Richard Allen. He was not allowed to be defended in the court of law. And so he needs an opportunity to present a defense. And we do believe that presenting an actual defense will allow him to be freed from these charges, because it's pretty clear there's something wrong here. Okay. Pretty clear something's wrong here. Let's continue. For this reason, Richard's defense counsel advised Richard not to participate in providing information for the pre-sentence investigation report to the Allen County Probation Department, as defense counsel assessed that there was no value in Richard Allen continuing to talk with state actors. Ooh, that's rich. Boom. That's a rich one right there. No value. What value would there be in continuing to talk to state actors? Just as there was no value in continuing to present a defense with their hands tied behind their backs as they were, which is why we saw the attorneys for Richard Allen literally give up, rest their case, and stop presenting a defense, because a defense was not allowed in this case. Okay? Then there's a footnote down here at the bottom, and I'm sure you can't read it, so I'll read it for you. It says, it should be noted for the record that this court, okay, that means this judge, hand-selected the Allen County Probation Department to conduct the pre-sentence investigation and interact with Richard Allen without any input from the defense, nor any explanation as to why the Carroll County Probation Department could not conduct the pre-sentence investigation. Additionally, Carroll County Local Rule LRO 8-TR79-10 provides an analogous example of how a special judge should be selected from a contiguous county, and believe that the proper methodology for selecting a special probation department appointment, should a good reason exist, would be appointing a probation office from a contiguous county to conduct the pre-sentence investigation. Okay? So I hope you guys understand that. It's basically zero confidence in this court, in this judge, or in this process is what's being said here. So the only hope is that the appellate process provide him some opportunity for a second trial and a second defense, okay? Or which would honestly be a first defense. Anyway, let's continue. Let's see, page 2. Throughout this case, Richard Allen has brought to the court's attention, and keep in mind, that means our insane, unhinged, biased, combative, bloodthirsty, corrupt judge, that he was detained in solitary confinement without due process. This constitutional violation by the state was then exacerbated by the assignment of staff psychologist Monica Walla, contracted by the IDOC, who, while having a deep personal interest in the case, while being a member of every single Facebook Delphi group, every single YouTube channel, and multiple Discords, engaged in confidential discussions with Mr. Allen about the details of the acts for which he was accused and about what was being said on social media. In total, Mr. Allen was housed in 4 different jails or prisons during his detention without any input from himself or his appointed counsel. During this time, Mr. Allen was exposed to staff, law enforcement officials, and offenders, all of whom have reported circumstances which negatively impacted his defense. Do you understand that? The warden, the psychologist, the guards who were Odinists threatening to kill him and his family, and officials, law enforcement officials and offenders who were also threatening to kill him and calling him a kid killer, all of whom have reported circumstances which negatively impacted his defense. Isn't that a bitch? This is not the intended purpose of pretrial detention in our system of criminal justice. I mean, holy shit. Andrew Baldwin, Andy, if you wrote this document, I got to give it to you, Andy. This is a stellar document, Andy. Stellar. Let's reread that again, or read it again. This is not the intended purpose of pretrial detention in our system of criminal justice. So let's reverse that, okay? What is not the intended purpose of pretrial detention in our system? Oh, you mean being housed in Westville, being exposed to staff, a psychologist, law enforcement officials, a warden, guards, and offenders, all of whom have reported circumstances which negatively impact his defense? Right. That's not supposed to be the purpose of pretrial detention. All right. As a result of these constitutional violations, Richard Allen's defense team believes it has an obligation to protect him from the prospect of any further inappropriate contacts with state actors. Just knocking it out of the park, Andy Baldwin. Additionally, Richard Allen is 52 years old. Pursuant to IC 3552-3, Richard is facing 45 to 130 years of imprisonment. It is in the unlikely scenario that under IC 3552-2, this court would sentence Richard Allen to the mandatory minimum sentence and run the counts concurrently. On his best day, Richard Allen would receive a 45-year mandatory prison sentence. With good time credit, this would amount to 33.75 actual years in prison. This means that Richard, on his best day at sentencing, and let's be honest, do any of you actually think that they're going to give him his best day at sentencing? Absolutely not. They're going to max his ass out, guaranteed, because that's the demon we are dealing with. This means that on his best day, Richard would be released from prison at 85 years of age. The practical reality is that unless this matter is reversed and retried, Richard Allen is likely facing the rest of his life in prison. Even on his best day at sentencing, Richard Allen will be 85 years old upon his release. With these facts in mind, the defense advised Richard Allen to not participate in the pre-sentence process. Again, his continued interaction with state actors does not make sense, considering that a second trial may occur, which would allow him to present a full defense. Additionally, Richard will be serving this lengthy sentence whether he provides a statement to the Allen County Probation or chooses to avoid providing a statement to the Allen County Probation Department. This reality also precipitated the defense to advise Richard not to participate in the process. Good job. Yeah, fuck them. Andy is saying fuck them. The defense provides this condensed sentencing memorandum considering the practical issues detailed in the previous paragraphs. Sorry, I'm having a little snack. All right, so dismissal of counts 1 and 2. Double jeopardy prevents Mr. Allen from being sentenced on both his murder conviction and the felony murder conviction for Abigail Williams and Liberty German. You know, I've been wondering about this, and I'm glad this was brought up because I really have been wondering, what are the odds? But let's listen. Richard Allen was found guilty of count 1, felony murder, count 2, felony murder for victim 2, Count 3, murder for victim 1. And count 4, murder for victim 2. However, the jury convicted Mr. Allen of both the murder and felony murder of victim 1 and victim 2. An individual cannot be convicted and sentenced for both murder and felony murder where only one killing took place. Holfaker versus State. Citing Fuller v. State. Okay. When a jury finds a defendant guilty of both murder and felony murder of the same victim, the court must vacate the felony murder conviction and enter judgment solely on the murder conviction. Therefore, Mr. Allen requests the court vacate his convictions for felony murder and enter the judgment solely on counts 3 and 4. Statutory mitigating factors. 1. Indiana Code 3538-17.1 B6. The person has no history of delinquency or criminal activity, or the person has led a law-abiding life for a substantial period of time before the commission of the crime. Richard Allen has no prior criminal history, and he maintains his innocence on this charge. Richard's lack of any prior criminal history is a mitigating factor. 2. Indiana Code 3538-17.1 B and 10. Imprisonment of the person will result in undue hardship to the person or the dependents of the person. Richard Allen was the main breadwinner for the household before he was arrested and sent to Westville Prison without a hearing or attorneys present. And let me ask you this. Was he even arraigned? Was he arraigned without attorneys present? His imprisonment has created and will continue to create, without a doubt, a hardship on his wife of 30 plus years, Kathy Allen, and his child. All right. So keep in mind, statutory mitigating factors, 0 criminal history, and his imprisonment will result in hardship of his dependents. Non-statutory mitigating factors. A number of non-statutory factors exist in this case. Among them, number 1, Richard Allen served in the U.S. Army National Guard for approximately 10 years, having enlisted when he was in high school. And 2, Richard Allen has a long history of mental illness, having been treated for major depressive disorder. We know this fucking judge doesn't care about that because she just executed a man with mental illness. That's right. First person in 15 years is a mentally ill person. So trust me, she's not going to care about this number 2 here. Having been treated for major depressive disorder and anxiety disorder throughout his life. His mental health condition was corroborated by the records of the IDOC created during his intake process. Check. At the Reception Diagnostic Center, and again through the records created by his assigned mental health providers at prison. Yes, that means insane Mana Koala. Check. Through the records, as well as his independent neurological exam results generated by Dr. Polly Westcott. Check, check, check. These records were introduced as evidence at various phases during the trial, and therefore the defense requests that this court take judicial notice of the same. The defense would further request that the court acknowledge the legitimacy of his mental health condition in the guilty plea and sentencing order, so the IDOC is on formal notice of his condition when the determination is made as to how and where to confine Mr. Allen while his appeal pens. Ooh, you see what's going on here? You see what they're establishing here? You see what they're setting up here with this paper? Paperwork. Okay, conclusion. Richard Allen maintains his innocence. Despite what Troll Farm tells you, because Troll Farm will tell you, no, he's going to plea. He's going to plea. He's going to admit what he did. He's going to confess, and he's going to confess at sentencing and apologize for what he did. Bullshit. Maintains innocence. And looks forward to the appellate process, which he anticipates will include adjudication by a neutral, detached, and unbiased tribunal. Ooh, that stings. That stings. That stings. You see what they did? What he did there? Yeah. Adjudication by a neutral, meaning non-biased, detached, not meaning not having a conflict or multiple conflicts of interest, and unbiased, meaning not biased. See, everything that this court was not. Richard Allen believes that he will be afforded due process under the law. Woo! Which means he was not allowed or afforded due process in this process, and will be permitted to present a full and complete defense at a future trial in this cause. Whoa! Because he, of course, was not even allowed to present 20% of his defense. Look, do we have a fucking problem in the chat? I'm about 5 seconds from basically deleting 5 people out of the chat. For that reason, as well as other reasons identified herein, Richard Allen, 1, chose not to participate in the pre-sentence process. 2, will not be presenting evidence at the sentencing hearing outside of this memorandum. And 3, his attorneys will be speaking and articulating arguments in minimal fashion during the sentencing hearing. So do you understand why? Do you understand why? Because they're not, let me put this shit down. Because they're not giving these insane fucking actors another crumb of anything. They're not. They're not giving Gull another fucking crumb. They're not giving McClellan another fucking crumb. They're not giving the pre-sentence investigation another fucking crumb. No one's getting another crumb of evidence or anything. It's all going to be withheld for the fucking appellate process because all you fuckers are going to get fucked. So I hope I made that clear for you. Which is the reason they arrested the defense in the fucking first place, because they weren't going to give you insane assholes another fucking piece of anything. No more evidence for you. You get nothing. No more witnesses, nothing. Okay, that's why they arrested. It was a big fuck you to this fucking court. So hopefully I made myself clear. Just a moment, please. Yeah, that is why they arrested early. They knew the fucking fix was in. This judge is absolutely fucking insane. We're about to reveal it all. And so why would you give the court another fucking iota of anything. Let me tell you, Andy Baldwin actually fucking cares about Richard Allen. That's the deal. Yeah, sorry. It triggers me. It really triggers me. Now, yeah, exactly. They told Rick to shut this shit down. Shut this fucking shit down. We're zipping it up. We're going to appeal. Bottom line. Okay. So next. So you may have seen that tonight was I called tonight Shanked. Okay. Delphi, Shanked. Shanked. Um so tonight what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about Kathy Shank and her role in all of this. All right. So I hope you guys are if you're not already mad. My glasses. If you're not already upset, you're going to be upset tonight by the end of it. Let's see. So Kathy Shank. You guys are going to be astonished at what we've uncovered. Okay? Um so before we get into it, let me ask you this. What is it about CPS or DCS that seems to intertwine them in all kind of fuckery in this human trafficking, pedophilia, child abuse, ritual child abuse, uh, child murders, and all of that? What is it about the CPS and DCS exploitation of children, children as a commodity? What is it with this case and the memes? What do I mean by memes? I mean by all of the meta conceptual imagery, calling cards, bat signals, whatever you want to call it. Terms like CPS, terms like Farm Bureau, terms like bridge guy, terms like comet, terms like fish, tentacles, shack. This case is a ritual. So everything is on a meta level. You see? You see? For instance, why do so many of the trolls worship these serial killers? They come in with troll accounts called Jason Voorhees, Charles Manson, Michael Myers. These freaks worship mass murderers and serial killers, horror characters. For them, it's a big fucking secret. It's a big fucking joke. All of the insider knowledge, like that these girls were taken to a shack before they were murdered. Like the CPS is involved in child trafficking and an exploitation of children. Like there's a cartel intimately tied in to this hit that ended up a half hit, a half fucking sacrifice of 2 little dead girls. The state is our actors. So what they do, they take something like a cult killed these girls and they turned it into the Odinist. Right, the numbers 213, 213, 214, 213, 214, 433, 545, 544. Well, what do you know about the secret societies? This is what they do. The Masons, the Eastern Star. This is what they do. This is why they can say, "Have you seen the shack?" You see? It's maniacal laughter. It's duping delight. Because we're all too stupid to see or to be in the know of what really happened, right? So we're going to explore Kathy Shank. And we're not going to belabor any points here. We're just going to get through the meat and potatoes, you see? So we have to do a little review. That's required, right? So we get, it's sort of like we're establishing a starting point or a base to stand on. So here are some notes, as you see, from Sleuthy Goosey, based on Andrea Burkhardt, because obviously this insane fucking judge would not allow the public to have the confidence of cameras in the courtroom, right? Could not ease the public's worries by allowing transparency. So we have to rely on stupid asses who managed to get their asses in the courtroom. Right. Like Aspen Connor, Frank Meister, Marv, Greeno, okay, and others like Lawyer Lee, Bob Mata, and here Andrea Burkhart. Because God forbid that we actually see for ourselves what happened in that courtroom and have confidence in the process. No, that couldn't be allowed. Could not be allowed. So here we go, relying on Andrea Burkhart and relying on Sleuthy Goosey to take notes. Several levels of having to rely on other people's fallible perception. But here we go. Oddly enough, Kathy Shank went to Purdue. Who else went to Purdue? When she came to Delphi, worked at Department of Child Services. Oh, what are the odds? Isn't that rich? Isn't that rich? Okay. Coming from the DCS, foster child, child exploitation, child trafficking system. Interesting. Okay. Through that, she developed lots of contacts with local and law enforcement. Oh, I bet she did. I bet she did. So she's a good old boy. So basically, what you're saying is she's a good old boy. Kathy Shank is a good old boy. Okay. When the murders happened, she was out of town on vacation. Plausible deniability. Are you sure you were out of town, Kathy Shank, or were you in attendance in a ritual in Delphi dressed in a robe? I mean, what were you doing, Kathy Shank? Were you really out of town, or were you dressed in a robe in the woods celebrating the sacrifice of a young girl, the ritual sacrifice of a young girl in Delphi? I mean, I don't know what you were doing. What's your alibi? She had retired at this point in time. Oh, therefore she's not responsible for what happened to Abby and Libby? She was no longer actively working for DCS at the time of the murders. Oh, okay. So further distancing. Okay. She followed the case from the first press conference. I bet she did. She indicated she knew Robert Ives very well. Oh, did she? Then why couldn't she convince him to get his ass on the witness stand and witness for Abby and Libby? So when she got back from vacation or from the ritual, she contacted Robert Ives and said she wanted to help. I bet she did. Help cover it up, help cover up the murders of Abby and Libby. Sounds like what happened. On March 1st, she volunteered for the investigation. Volunteered, really? Well, how do you volunteer? How do you volunteer for an investigation, which would include access to privileged information, private information, sealed information, things only the killer would know? How do you volunteer for something like that? She was basically a receptionist. They had set up a command center in a separate building. Somebody had a vacant building, basically, that they allowed them to go ahead and move into because the volume of police officers and people coming through, it was overwhelming the city building. So she would take tips when people would come in with tips or emails. How is she qualified? She would refer to that along to the detective. So she would take this privileged information and be the first point of contact, filter it through, and decide whether or not it goes to the detective. And there was an information sheet she would create that contained the name, how to identify them, contact info, and a summary of what they wanted to communicate about the case. So basically, she knew everything. Okay. She estimated there were about 50 or more popo working on the case at that point in time. But she didn't keep track of who worked on what at what point in the investigation. Right, because it wasn't her job. Well, I guess none of this was her job technically, right? Her contact with the information about the case and what was going on behind the scenes was limited. No, that's what she says on the stand. I bet you it was unlimited. Okay. The first assignment she mentioned she was given was numerous bankers. She was given numerous bankers boxes. That means empty boxes that were full of investigative reports. Oh, so she gets numerous boxes of the investigation. Interesting. Does any of that include the 70 days of shit that was deleted in order to cover up the murders of Abby and Libby? Boxes and boxes of this type of information, and she was asked to organize them in a way that was going to make it more accessible. She went and got some filing cabinets and created a system to label these reports, stick them in their own little file folder, and had a labeling system where she would name the file based on a witness or a person of interest or whatever. Okay, so she basically took all of the investigation and she was the one who systematically organized it. Oh, sounds like she would know every fucking single aspect of this investigation, except the 70 days of shit that they intentionally deleted. She was asked specifically not to go in and read into the details of the report. How do you do that? Hey, bro, I'm going to give you some nudes of my wife. Don't look at them. Just go put them over there. She ultimately filled about 5 multi-drawer filing cabinets with these reports. How many thousand you think that is? Let me ask you that. A single filing cabinet with 5 drawers, or 6, or however many fucking drawers they have. You know, your standard filing cabinet. How many manila folders do you think can fit in there? Just in one filing cabinet. I don't know. You could probably fit, 400 at least in one drawer. Let's say 500 to make round numbers. 5, 10, say 5, 10, 15, 20. So 2,000 reports per file cabinet. She had 5 of them. So maybe 2,500. So that's one. That's 5,000. 5. That's 10,000. That's what did you have? 10,000, 20,000 folders at least. She mentioned there was another coworker that worked with that. Really? So was this other coworker also just some random old lady from the neighborhood who also had the ability to dig into the entire investigation around the Delphi murders? So how many people in this town had the ability to put their eyes on the entire Delphi murders investigation, who were outside of law enforcement, and then feed it back to the actual killers or the family or the people covering it up? Oh, we don't want to talk about that. That would never happen in Delphi. It's a sweet old town with sweet old little people in it. There's nothing criminal going on in Delphi. There's no cover-ups going on. There's no one's dirty in Delphi. There's no reason that any of this getting back out of the unified command would be a problem. The police didn't do background checks on anyone helping. It was just a trust system because, they had known her. She worked with them for years, so we trust her. Cops don't lie. People don't lie. No reason to do checks on anyone. No reason to have people who would be obligated by some sort of oath. Okay? No vetting of anyone. Wow, what integrity. What integrity. Okay, so sometime after the filing system had started, the tips began to slow down. After she finished the system of filing, she was then given a new responsibility. Oh, pray tell, Kathy, what was that responsibility? Okay, your responsibility was entering the narrative summaries into a database. Oh, I would assume that at that point you would have to read through the entire thing. Therefore, the whole the plausible deniability you established earlier that you were told not to read the reports, that goes out the window because now you have to read them all to put them into the system, correct? I delete bitches like you for breakfast. And that's how it happens. Let's continue for the fuckers, the fuck faces who want to come in here and slob knob from Nick McClellan. Okay, so let's see. You see, they're going to send in the trolls right now, the high-ranking ones, because what's about to happen is I'm about to show you shit that you're not going to believe. I promise you. All right. Remember, I said we're just establishing a foundation here. Okay. Each narrative summary was assigned a specific number. The leads would be put into what she called a covered lead section. The covered lead was basically something that somebody had responded to, and that was to distinguish it from a lead that was not yet followed up on. Okay. The system was special just for this particular investigation for Abby and Libby. Yeah, in other words, they were flying by the seat of their pants, making shit up as they went along. Okay. After she finished getting the leads in, she was then asked to start entering tips in. The tips would be forwarded to her, typically by email. She was also part of the Abby Libby tip line. So leads would just go straight to her. Are you guys understanding the importance of Kathy Shank at this point? Let me remove this. Are you beginning to understand the important role that she played in this yet? So not only did she organize the investigation in the early days, she then graduated up to entering all the narrative reports sequentially, and then she then graduated to being the first line defense or interceptor of all of the tips. All right. Sorry, I'm going to eat my snacks tonight while I do this, but okay. So at this point, sorry to break it to you, but she's basically Liggett's right-hand man. You understand this? Kathy Shank becomes Liggett's right-hand man. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So she's behind the scenes doing all of the administrative work for Liggett at this point. All right. So through the process of running the tip line, running the tip email, entering the tips into the database, establishing all the narrative report, you get she's driving this train. Do you understand? She's driving the fucking train. Get your minds right. Around September 2020, pay attention to that date. She's asked to start scanning the information from each file in her system, in the 5 fucking file cabinets, into a database. Okay? So now they're digitizing everything. The tips had already primarily, the bulk of them come in. The majority of the summaries were already, they had already information farmed the entire fucking community around the world. Okay? Let me put this down. Fuck this shit. All right. So basically, they had information farmed this whole fucking Delphi murders investigation, all of it. Kathy Shank is the one who had her arms all the way around it. From every layer, every strata. Remember, Liggett's right-hand man. So she's digitizing it all at this point. Digitizing it. September 2020, digitizing it. It starts taking her time. It's going into 2 years of time it takes her to start digitizing. She did not, according to her, read every report while she entered it. What? How the fuck do you do that? Just curious for you, Kathy. How do you enter these handwritten tips, narrative reports, summaries, etc.? How do you enter all of this and not read any of it? But she's clearly, right, more than anyone, right, Liggett's right-hand man, getting more details about the investigation than anyone. She's pretty much in the position to know more about this bulk of evidence than anyone in the world. All right. The investigation moved to another place because they needed more room all of a sudden. So she brought the fucking 5 filing cabinets full of shit with her. They were mine, she says. They were her filing cabinets, and she was protective of them. When asked to estimate how many tips she herself had taken and processed, she said it was a little bit over 14,000 tips that she personally dealt with. Okay. The database had a system to identify who had processed the tip. If she could go back and search by name, no, she could go back. And when she searched by her own name, she found that her name was attached to approximately 14,000 tips. And God knows how many narrative reports and all of this other shit. And at the same time, remember, she's taking all the tips through email. She's taking them through the phone lines. She's dealing with the phone. She's dealing with the email. She's dealing with all the archives in the boxes, right, in the legal boxes. And she's Liggett's right-hand man. In the process of allegedly moving from this building to another location, she discovers, all right, fuck it, I'll take it down because I want to do this. She discovers a box that had gone into a desk drawer during the process. In the course of going through this box, she realized that she was seeing handwritten tip numbers. So what she realizes is that these tips in this box in the desk drawer preceded the creation of her database, because the database was automatically assigning numbers as they're entered. So she needed to think of a way to reconcile these handwritten tips that preceded the automatic assignment that this database was doing, because she was the primary one in charge of creating and maintaining this database. She knew that these tips were from before she came in. So from February 13, 2017 to March 1st, there were handwritten tips, and these are magically what ends up in her desk. And here comes the moment of weird shit. She was going through this box, dealing with this, and she magically finds a lead sheet. It states on February 16th, 2017, Richard Allen had self-reported being on the trails between 1:30 and 3:30, and he had seen 3 girls. Really? Where's the evidence for that? So although it's not her job to read through and be familiar with the details of the case, and even though at one point she was specifically told not to do so, obviously over the course of this, she had previously read. Come on, lady. Come on. You knew this case better than anyone else in the world because it was your baby. You had eyes on every single thing that went into that database. And you were Liggett's right-hand man. It seems to her that this was a possible connection and something she should be concerned about. And it caused her concern. So she assumes that this is an important thing for her to look into. So she looks at this lead sheet and it names Richard Allen Whiteman. She found Richard Allen Whiteman in the file cabinet. And then inside that folder, she found a narrative summary that had been entered into the database in February of 2017, stating Richard Allen Whiteman had been interviewed. And she said that Richard Allen and Richard Allen Whiteman had matching tip numbers, and therefore she knew that Richard Allen Whiteman and Richard Allen were the same. Furthermore, the lead narrative that she had a mark on it in green, indicating that it was cleared, a cleared file. But when she found this, she was concerned. So she goes, because she's Liggett's right-hand man, she goes, bring it right to Liggett. So she went and changed the name on the file from Richard Allen Whiteman to just Richard Allen. And that's the story that she presented in her direct. Okay. So Mr. Baldwin Mr. Baldwin cross-examines and says, you have no idea if the information that's actually reported on these papers is accurate at all. There could be mistakes. And she said, it wasn't me who made the mistake. No one said that you made a mistake. It sounds like what he said is there could be mistakes in this paperwork. She then says she didn't know who entered Richard Allen Whiteman, who worked that tip or who cleared the tip or who marked it as cleared or why it said Richard Allen Whiteman. She didn't know how everything ended up in that file, just that it was there and that this was all she was able to say. And there was no other tip. This was the only tip they had received concerning Richard Allen or Richard Allen Whiteman. So when asked, what was it that caught your attention? And she says it's the timing, the fact that he was on the trail at the time that he reported seeing girls, three girls, and it corresponded with the information that they had from the girls who were witnesses, these witnesses who believed they may have seen who they believe could have been Bridge Guy. So when pressed about that, she says it was just because of the time frame he was there, and it's not because he met the physical description or anything. Da 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 da. And she said they had all his contact information, and she was not sure about the FBI and wasn't privy to the details, not part of the investigation. She did know that the total number of tips that she processed was about approximately 14,000. Some of the tips would be things like, my neighbor looks like Bridge Guy. Of course, that's the entirety of the fucking Delphi murders community, right? She conceded that lots of people look like Bridge Guy. And she got lots of tips about people looking like Bridge Guy. Of course, she didn't remember any tips about a guy in his 20s with fucking poofy brown hair, right? The actual important tips. No, she didn't remember any of that. She said she would have also remembered a tip about a man walking down the street covered in mud and blood, but did not remember anything of the sort. Oh, you don't say. So you don't remember any tips, even though you processed everything and you knew more than any human being about the entire case. And you're Liggett's right-hand man, but you don't know about anything about a poofy brown hair young man in his 20s. You don't know anything about a guy who's muddy and bloody. Interesting. Boy, shit is getting deep. So Mr. Baldwin says, at the time you discovered this tip in September of 2022, was Mr. Liggett running for sheriff? Objection, objection, objection. Sustained, sustained. Yeah, you see? You see? I tell you what, I'm about to delete fucking 500 people out of this chat for your bullshit. Dude, say another stupid thing. I don't have to be here. So the bottom line about this tip was that Richard Allen had volunteered that he had been out at the trail and that he had come in himself to provide that tip or information. She acknowledged that. She did not start entering tips until they had moved into the city building. So a year after the investigation had started, when she began to process the tips into this Orion database. So there were lots of tips that had been entered before she started. She did not read all of them, so she wasn't aware of things like if police had spoken to people at a roadblock out of the trails, because somebody else had probably entered those. There were lots of tips that had been entered before she started. She did not read all of them, so she wasn't aware of those types of things. If there was a narrative summary from the part preceding her time on the investigation, then she might have entered it into the database, but not the tip. For whatever reasons, it seems like Richard Allen's narrative summary she didn't enter for whatever reason. It was already there, meaning somebody had entered it. It was cleared and outside her purview. She's not the one that managed that original tip, but she just magically fucking found it in 2020, right before the election, right? So let's continue to look at stuff. All right. There's more. Where is it? I'm going to look at this next. All right. This says, members, all right, listen, this is November 14th, 2018. And that little picture you see is Mike fucking Patty. Okay. Members of the Delphi Lions Club held an auction last Saturday to benefit the Libyan Abbey Foundation, and specifically the ball fields currently in development at the corner of SR 25 and SR 218. A total of 102 items from individuals, local businesses, and businesses from other counties were offered for auction. At the DCES cafeteria at 11 a.m., auction items included gift cards, coffee makers, 2 large gas grills, date night packages, 20 tons of sand or gravel, a portable gas grill, artwork, a new Fender guitar, and many other items. Sandwiches, drinks, and desserts were also available. Proceeds from the auction will be donated to the Libby and Abbey Park Foundation to help fund the softball park. And that's Mike Patty smiling is all in all his fucking glory. In honor of Liberty German and Abby Williams, the family of Libby German, that means Mike Patty, has established the Libby and Abbey Softball Park Fund, which means pay us, through the Carroll County Community Foundation, which means money laundering organization. Those wishing to make tax-deductible donations for the park are encouraged to make online contributions through Give Now. In the comment section, designate the Abbey or the Libby and Abbey Softball Park Fund. Okay. Checks can be mailed to Carroll County Community Foundation. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Pictured are Mike Patty with his purchase of a fucking new toaster oven. Judy Connor and Kathy Shank, who served food at the auction. And among the auction items, a new gas grill. Okay. So what you see there in the little photo is Kathy Shank down there. Okay. Meaning she directly knows the Patties. Okay, bottom line, why am I showing you this? I got bad news for you. She directly is a friend of the family and a friend of Liggett. Patty friend, Liggett friend. Patty friend, Liggett friend. She has her arms around the entire investigation. Let's continue. As day 6 of testimony in the Delphi murders trials began, the state began to lay the groundwork for the case against Richard Allen. Allen is charged with 4 counts of murder in connection with the February 2017 deaths of 2 girls, so it should be 2 counts. All right. Day 5 of the trial included combative defense exchanges with a bridge guy witness. Yeah, you mean stupid ass Sarah Carbaugh. An account from the pathologist who performed the autopsies. You remember the incompetent pathologist, yes, who could not give us accurate times of death, because an accurate time of death for each girl would prove that they did not die at the same time. Therefore, there's something more to the story because they die hours and hours and hours apart. Who performed the autopsies on the girls, and testimony from a state police digital forensic examiner on cell phone pings and data extracted from Liberty's phone. Yes, all bullshit, bullshit, and bullshit. Okay, but let's continue because this is just, like I said, we're laying the groundwork. Misfiled report leads to scrutiny. The first witness was Kathy Shank, a retired DCS worker. CPS? DCS? Who, quote, volunteered to wrap her arms around the entirety of the tips, the narrative summaries, the investigation, all fucking 5 file cabinets, and Liggett himself. She estimated she handled about 14,000 tips related to the Delphi murders case. On September 21st, 2022, she came across a file folder that was not with the others she was managing. Inside was a report with the name Richard Allen Whiteman. The report indicated that Allen was on the high bridge on the day of the murders. Yeah, but remember this. We don't get the original fucking handwritten notes that Dulin supposedly took of this fucking interaction with Richard Allen. We also don't get a recording of the interaction, which was his standard operating procedure to take recordings using his voice recorder of the interaction. So we don't get any fucking proof that this interaction ever happened or that Richard Allen himself ever said he was there from 1:30 to 3:30. No, we don't get that. But what we do get is this. She immediately notified Tony Liggett, she's the right-hand man. Shank noted that the tip sheet said cleared, which means you shouldn't have gave it a shit of a fucking word. What is it your job to second guess the investigator's work? She wasn't sure why Allen's name was entered incorrectly as Richard Allen Whiteman. The discrepancy likely surrounded Allen's address, which was located on Whiteman Drive. That's all assumptions. DNR officer recounts interview. Next, the state calls Dan Dulin with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. What are the odds? Wasn't he involved? What? Never mind. Let's just keep moving. Geez, I'm losing my temper. He was tasked with helping investigators track down the fucking leads in the Delphi murders case. He met with Allen on February 18, 2017. Just a few days after the murders, Allen had contacted investigators to self-report that he had been on the high bridge on the day the girls disappeared, and he says it's from 12 to 1:30. But of course, we have to take Dulin's word for it now because we ain't getting shit as far as proof because there's no proof of anything. Dulin initially wanted to meet at Allen's house, but Allen didn't want to meet there. Dulin then suggested the police station. Again, Allen preferred to meet a different location. Allen suggested they meet in the parking lot of Save-A-Lot Dime Store or whatever. Dulin agreed. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Fox 59 is the most biased bullshit reporting on this case. And if you already don't know, you don't need to be consuming media on this case. You should have already figured out that Fox 59 is the most biased reporting on this case. Allen told Dulin he was in the area of the high bridge between 12 and 1:30. Of course, this is going to say between 1 and 3. Yeah. Where's the proof of anything? Oh, on that note, where's the 70 fucking days of the investigation that was deleted? Yeah, I didn't think so. He told Dulin he saw 3 young girls. Yeah, not 4. By the way, did he happen to see The three classmates, Herrera, Mata, and Collier. All right, look, let me say thank you to Jake Brooks, Mino Dino, and Spike Dog. Thank you. Thank you. Jake Brooks. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Mino Dino. Thanks, Spike Dog. All right. Dulin told the court the conversation lasted about 10 minutes. Of course, he doesn't have the fucking recording to prove a thing. We don't even get the handwritten notes, right? He typed up the notes on Microsoft Word. The information was then filed into the system. Yeah, you could make it whatever you want, right? Dulin told the court he didn't think much of the interview until investigators contacted him in 2022. So in other words, no red flags, right, Dulin? No red flags. No red flags. So no alarms go off. No red flags. Everything seems honky-dory with this guy, probably because he says he's there from 12 to 1:30. No red flags go off. You know, you got a whole bunch of other suspect fucking people out there, like Cheyenne, like Shelby, like Daniel Pearson, like Herrera, Mata, and Collier, and fucking whoever the fuck else was out there, Tara. You had a whole lot of people out there to be concerned with at the time these murders were taking place. You really think that if Richard Allen set off any alarm bells or red flags that they wouldn't be looking at him closer? He was asked if he'd spoken to Allen, answered in the affirmative, and turned over all his files. Dulin went into the DNR files in 2022 to see if there was additional information about Allen. Here's where they slander. Okay, here's where they fucking slander. That's when he discovered that Allen applied for a new fishing license and reported a new height and weight. Yeah, that means he's a double murderer of two little girls in Delphi, Indiana, right? Right? That's how you do things in Delphi. You just push it up, just like backing in is a habit of parking. Oh, he happens to back in when he parks oftentimes, means he must be a double murderer. Oh, he applies for a new fishing license and his height or weight has changed. Oh, he must be a murderer. He's guilty. Oh, he owns several cell phones because he's never thrown one away. Must be a murderer. Oh, owns some knives. Must be a murderer. Owns a gun. Must be a murderer. Owns a blue jacket. Must be a murderer. Blah, 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 blah. Not one shred of fucking evidence. But here it gets to the juicy part. We're going to skip to the end. I got a lot to go through. Last sentence. 5 weeks after Shank discovered the misfiled report, quote unquote, misfiled, planted, Allen was arrested. Okay, so let's look at the timeline. Liggett's facing an election, meaning these corrupt actors are about to lose control of the Delphi murders investigation. If they lose the election, there's no guarantee they'll win the election, right? So let's reverse engineer this shit. Let's remove this shit. Think about it. They have absolute dictatorship over the Delphi murders investigation, this group of people, correct? They're facing down the barrel of the gun. They know that they're about to lose control, or there's the potential they could lose control of this Delphi murders investigation during the election, because there's no guarantee they'll win the election. So 5 weeks prior, Kathy Shank miraculously discovers through her own volition, this tip. which then enables 5 weeks later them to arrest Allen with a manufactured PCA that hid facts and misrepresented facts or witness statements to Judge Diener. The arrest of Richard Allen secures the election, which enables them to keep control of the election. Diener steps down immediately. Problem solved. Control maintained. The potential of losing control over this cover-up goes away overnight. Have you ever watched football? Do you know what a Hail Mary pass is? The game, you're 1 point under, or let's say 2 or 3. You're about to lose the game. You got 1 second left on the clock. The only hope is a Hail Mary pass because you're at the 10 or 20 yard line. So in that 1 second, your linebacker has to make it to the end zone. As quarterback, your team has to establish a defense, and you hawk that ball as far as humanly possible. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. You get that ball to the end zone, and you hope he catches it. If he catches it, that's your touchdown. That's the game-winning play. Excuse me. That's what happens. Kathy Shank delivers the Hail Mary. She's the quarterback for the Hail Mary pass. Liggett catches it in the end zone, wins the election, saves the dictatorship or the ultimate control over the Delphi murders investigation. The only person that has to suffer for it is Rick Allen and his wife and daughter. Trial day 6, media reporting. If this is the state's case in chief, we are in for something ungodly when defense gets their turn. Well, they didn't get a turn because the judge made sure of that. Because see, this organization is at every level of society. They've got this organization so fine-tuned that they even had the judge. Okay? They even had the judge because they were able to have the judge run defense and make sure that that's blocked so that no defense can be presented, and therefore case is won. And that's what happened because they had the judge in their pocket, no defense was allowed, and boom, now you have Rick Allen going to be sentenced. Rick was cleared, and his own tip was the only one that existed for him out of 50K plus. So what does that mean? That means no one else in the entire world tipped in Rick Allen. But Kathy Shank. Per my last email, he never saw those 3 teenage girls the state listed as witnesses. Those 3 teenage girls were actually a group of 4. 3 females Rick saw, he described to Ellie as one was older, like she was babysitting the other 2. Which sounds like the other 2 are school-age girls, right? which leads me to believe he saw 3 little girls, Herrera, Collier, and Mata. Testimony from our witness teenagers would make Rick a 5'10" muscular guy in his 20s with curly blonde hair coming out of his black hoodie. Oh, you mean like Daniel Pearson? Rick didn't see them and they didn't see Rick. Point 2, he told law enforcement he was there around 12 to 1:30. Curiously, doesn't seem law enforcement bothered to find potential witnesses to corroborate seeing him or his car at that time. Interesting point here. Why didn't law enforcement go and look for people there between 12 and 1:30 to corroborate whether or not they saw Rick Allen out there at that time? Seems like any good investigator would say, hey, maybe we should find people who were there earlier in the day and see if they saw Rick. Is that when Karma Burris, the Burrises were there? 3, he told law enforcement the route he took, the only logical route in the first place, without having knowledge Harvest Store CCTV existed, and that route made it impossible that he passed the Harvest Store. 4, Mullen admitted Harvest Store's CCTV vid was never recovered until fucking 2022. Are you fucking kidding me? You got a double murder of 2 little girls and you never went and recovered that Harvest Store video? What kind of fucking investigation was this? Mullen admitted Harvest Store video never recovered until 2022, even though they knew it existed in fucking 2017. He knows it's Rick driving by at 127 because it's a black hatchback style car with sport rims. Although you cannot see the license plate, you cannot see the driver, and for all the other vehicles that pass that camera, he counted on the drivers of those vehicles to identify themselves passing the camera. Are you fucking kidding me? You cannot make out a driver license plate or even be possible or even be positive. Look at that note. Number 4, you cannot even be positive of the make and model. 5, Rick never admitted wearing the exact BG outfit. He said a blue or black Carhartt jacket, jeans, and boots, and a skull cap rather than some type of head covering. 6, he called law enforcement on February 16th after the bridge guy image was released because law enforcement asked people to let them know if you were there in the area on the 13th. Career liar and veteran hater Dan Dulin interviewed him on February 18 at a grocery store as Rick was already on the way there to buy groceries. Didn't even ask him what he wore. Dulin claims he said he was there between 1:30 and 3:30 because that's what he typed in a Word document later on, but he threw out the fucking handwritten notes. 7, Kathy Shank tells the lies of a child regarding her miraculous attention to detail that discovered the long-forgotten and fucking clear tip from Rick. 8, jury asked Dulin why he never brought Rick up to LE again. Dulin said he has not thought of Allen between 2017 and 2022. You understand these tips here? I mean, these notes. Let me pull this down. Good. Do you understand these notes? Okay, this is from that day 6. Now we're going to look. Just give me a moment to cough it. All right. I'm going to eat another piece of chocolate and I'm going to read something to you. Shit's getting deep now. It's going to get deep. Kathy Shank, a former DPS worker who began her career in 1971 as a receptionist, has achieved something extraordinary. She claims to have found a critical tip in the Delphi case among a box of tips. Given her age, her involvement is nothing short of remarkable. Together with Tony Liggett, they brought resolution to what was once considered Indiana's largest unsolved murder case, the Delphi murders. Yet, where are the accolades? Where are the parties in the honor of these fucking heroes? Yeah, I'm breaking out the chocolate. Sorry. Why hasn't the media, including outlets like Dateline, etc., celebrated their monumental achievement? The public is asking for a statement from Sheriff Liggett and Kathy Shank, sharing their thoughts and feelings after solving the case of the fucking century, or at least the case of the decade. They deserve recognition for their role in changing history. Their determined effort amidst a case involving the FBI, CIA, ATF, ISP, approximately 25 and other state and fucking federal agencies. Remember, Doug Carter said every federal agency at our disposal. It's truly astonishing. Despite the use of advanced systems like Orion and the involvement of a unified command, it was little old Kathy Shank, with her diligence, who discovered this fucking tip, not on a computer, but in a physical box and marked cleared. How did a 70-year-old woman accomplish what some of the most advanced investigative systems and skilled professionals in law enforcement could not? Is Kathy Shank a fucking magician? This question isn't meant to belittle her work, but rather to highlight just how incredible her contribution is. It's difficult to imagine the level of determination and brilliance it took to sift through 5 filing cabinets full of investigative summaries, investigative reports, tips, to take every tip over the phone, all the tip emails, sift through all that, and uncover the needle in a haystack, a tip that would ultimately crack the case. The public believes that Kathy Shank and Sheriff Liggett should receive recognition and even the reward money they deserve. We are calling for public acknowledgement and speeches from these fucking heroes, Kathy Shank and Tony Liggett. Even if you are humble and shy, you have changed history. Just in honor of Abby and Libby. Allowing them to receive their eternal peace. You are both heroes. And we want to hear your story, Kathy Shank. Please step forward and share how you did it and let the world celebrate your achievements. With Richard Allen's sentencing looming tomorrow, December 20th, 2024, it feels like there's little that can change the trajectory of this case. After 20 fucking hours of deliberation, 12 jurors unanimously returned a guilty verdict. Yet this entire process has been shrouded in controversy, secrecy, and corruption, leading many questioning on how such a decision was reached and whether or not justice was truly served. The saddest part of this travesty is not just the verdict, but it reflects a broader failure of the criminal justice system. The state, the prosecutor, and law enforcement employed tactics that undermine transparency and fairness and confidence in the criminal justice system. This okie dokie shit was conducted in plain sight with little recourse for those who sought the truth. And remember, everything's been shrouded in secrecy. That's why you were not allowed to have eyes in the courtroom. The jury and their heroes. Did the 12 jurors personally meet the so-called heroes of the Delphi case? What was said during those interactions? For real. If Kathy Shank, a 75-year-old volunteer, indeed visited those jurors at their hotel, this raises serious ethical questions. What about Holman and Munn? What did they discuss with the jurors at their hotel? Who went to Becky Patty and informed her of what the jurors were asking to review during deliberations? And how did that information get to Aspen Connor and Lauren of Hidden True Crime? Who was talking with the jurors? If her miraculous discovery of tip number 74 is the linchpin of this case, then transparency is paramount. How did she succeed where over 25 fucking federal and state agencies, including the FBI, failed for 7 years? Why weren't her methods celebrated publicly? If her discovery truly solved the most infamous murder case in Indiana's history and possibly the world, she deserves recognition, doesn't she? And perhaps the $325,000 reward money, doesn't she? But the lack of transparency about her role, combined with the intertwined relationship between her, the Patty family, and law enforcement, and the secret society members in the area. Law enforcement, prosecutors, family, it casts a long shadow. It does. The Patty family's close ties to the Shank family, as evidenced by their public fundraising efforts, should invite deeper scrutiny into the potential biases that may have influenced this outcome. When abuse of power becomes so blatant that it erodes constitutional rights, it shakes the foundations of justice for everyone. This case illustrates how such abuses, like those in other parts of the world, can chip away at democratic ideals and the rule of law. In Richard Allen's case, critical defense arguments were systematically suppressed. Judge Gull made repeated rulings against Baldwin and Rozzi, and conversely, in favor of Nicholas McClellan and the state, sustaining nearly every objection of McClellan. Yes. Seemingly aligning with the prosecution at every turn. Evidence and testimony that could have pointed to other suspects like Ron Logan, Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Elvis Fields, and many others were barred from court. Even the FBI's own fucking reports, which identified Ron Logan as a potential suspect and included an 85-page investigation by late Greg Ferenczi, Todd Click, and Kevin Murphy, were dismissed. She even allowed the blocking of an FBI a witness during trial. Evidence and testimony that could have pointed to other suspects was barred. How could these reports and all of this evidence be deemed irrelevant? Especially when contradicting the state's narrative and establishing a potential defense. Due process demands that a defendant be allowed to explore and present alternative theories of the crime. Yet Richard Allen's defense team was denied this opportunity, barred at every single turn, which is why, like I said, they rested their case, because there was no point in giving anything else to these fucking demons. The state's story doesn't hold. The prosecution's shifting narrative raises questions about its integrity. Prosecutor Nicholas McClellan appeared to prioritize closure of this case over the truth, leaving critical gaps in the case unexplored. We didn't even get a fucking timeline that was forensically laid out. No, we didn't. Remember, to establish a forensic timeline for this crime would have required two things. It would have required the entire family's cell phone data dumps to digitally, forensically lay out their timeline. And secondly, it would have demanded proper autopsies and time of death and coroner's reports for these two victims to outline specifically, forensically, the times of death of these victims and the stomach contents, the manner of death, and all things that were pertinent to a timeline, so that the forensic data from the family's phones, who were the involved parties at the one bookend of this crime, could establish a bookend, and then the autopsy information could establish another bookend, and that give us a time frame and a specific timeline. All of that was unexplored, leaving critical gaps in the timeline. And no one thinks it's a thing. Additionally, 70 days of deleted law enforcement work product interviews. The state relied heavily on this fucking flimsy timeline and on assumptions of what must have happened rather than proof of what did happen. Meanwhile, plausible leads, like some ties to some sort of Odinism or some sort of heathenry, or at least at a minimum, some sort of cartel that left signatures of neo-Nazi or Nordic Nazi involvement, and suspects who placed themselves there with knowledge of the crime scene, all of that actively suppressed. Now, I'm going to show you something. If you have not seen this, prepare to be angered. This is a Kathy Shank letter to the editor. Right prior to Liggett's election. Right prior to the election. This is Kathy Shank. Liggett deserves your vote. Read it. It's Kathy Shank. Don't you want to get to know Kathy a little better? Working with Tony Liggett for the past 5.5 years has given me the opportunity and insight to not only witness his personal integrity, but also his work ethic and commitment to his profession as a dedicated law enforcement officer. I have observed him as he accepted responsibility for his assigned duties as detective for the sheriff's office. I have witnessed his willingness to assist road officers to ensure their safety without a moment's hesitation. I am aware of his numerous responsibilities within the sheriff's office, in addition to being the sole detective at this time. Currently, as chief deputy, he has many additional assigned tasks, which he accepts and manages with respected professionalism. Tony has full working knowledge of the duties and responsibility that the position of sheriff of Carroll County requires. He has developed a rapport with the county commissioners and council as they now pave the way for the much needed jail and sheriff's office headquarters. That means money, cash, guys, cash. Tony knows the critical needs facing the sheriff's office at this time, which are the Abby Libby investigation. Cha-ching, that means he needs to win the election, and I'm going to help him. Recruitment, retention, and updated tools and equipment such as body cameras. He has and will continue to address these needs and advocate for those needs to be met to ensure the best protection and service to the citizens of Carroll County. Tony Liggett has the knowledge, expertise, and commitment to assume the position of Carroll County Sheriff today. Join me to ensure that on November 8th, he will be Sheriff Tony Liggett on January 1st, 2023. Kathy Shank, Flora. Well, Kathy, sounds like mission accomplished. I found another little receipt here. You'll see down here on June 14th, Carriage Court, $18,000 for the Appraisal Shop Inc. to Kathy J. Shank. That's pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap. Kathy Shank. Volunteer finds lost tip that leads police to Richard Allen. Kathy Shank worked to protect children her entire career. Is that what CPS does at all times? And she isn't letting retirement stop her from what she's called to do. Here we have the hero making. On Thursday, jurors learned that it was Shank who found the 2017 tip that led police to investigate Richard Allen. You mean the same Shank who just wrote this letter right here? Liggett deserves your vote, so vote for Liggett so he can save the Abby Libby deal? Okay. Allen has been charged with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of Libby and Abby. The teen Carroll County girls went for a hike, allegedly. Here we go with the bullshit narrative spinning. Amy Graham McCarty. never showed up for their designated pickup. Yeah, by the way, who was going to pick him up? Was it Mike? Shank's small stature didn't keep her from speaking up when she found a tip sheet from September 21st, on September 21st, 2022. Having worked with law enforcement throughout her 40-year career with the County Welfare Program, now the Department of Children's Services. When Shank heard about the deaths of Abby and Libby, she knew she wanted to help. She testified that she contacted then Carroll County Prosecutor Robert Ives after the first press conference. I said I would really like to help in any way I can, she said. On March 1st, 2017, she began volunteering with the investigation and has remained a volunteer ever since. Wow, how many years is that? How many years did she work for free as Liggett's right-hand man? Basically, at the old REMC building, when a person would come in with tips, I would greet them, take their information, and then refer that information to Liggett, Shank said. She said she would fill out an information sheet that had the individual's name, identification information, and a summary of what they wanted to talk with law enforcement about. So basically, she knew everything. The initial investigation was at the city building with numerous officers. Shank said it was cramped quarters. She estimates 50 or more officers were working on the case, but it's little old Shank. It's you got to be kidding me, bro. It's little old Shank. Okay, where is it? As tips began to trail off, Shanks was given more responsibility. I was given the responsibility of 2 banker boxes of investigative reports, she said. I'm an organizer. Shank testified that she sat at a card table and put narrative reports in files with police and witness statements. She did not read the reports. That shows you the fact that she's repeated this so specifically tells you that that's an important narrative point for her to spin. So she wants you all to believe really badly that she did not read any of the reports. Why is it so important to her to have the public believe that she did not read these reports? I'm trying to understand that one. Like, why is it her objective to convince the public that she didn't read the narrative reports? That one is concerning. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? When completed, she had filled 5 fucking filing cabinets. Think about that amount of information, y'all. Think about it. For instance, all the recipes you got in your house, could they fill 5 as many recipes in your house you could cook for over a year? Could you fill 5 filing cabinets with recipes? I didn't think so. She filled 5 fucking filing cabinets. That's a lot of data. She said that each tip was put in a folder with a tab that had the person's first, last, and sometimes middle name on it. Only one other person was helping Shank with filing and organizing. Both women were vetted, and neither read the reports on tips that were written down, she said. There she goes again. And by the way, who is this other woman? Who is this other woman? We keep getting an anonymous other woman, but I haven't seen the name of that person yet. Who's this other woman? I mean, does it happen to be this other woman mentioned in this article? Are we talking about, let me get this other woman's name. Are we talking about Judy Connor? Are we talking about Judy Connor, Kathy Shank? As December 2017 rolled around and things in the investigation began slowing down, Shank thought she could be of more benefit to the team. It took me a while, but eventually we finished, she said of organizing the files. Shank's new responsibilities included entering narrative summaries, which she didn't read, according to her, into a database. That database is known as Orion. She said the reports included a lead page, which included how the tip originated, and was organized by a numbering system that was not used outside of the Abby and Libby investigation. Carroll County prosecutor Stacy Diener asked Shank, "Did you enter anything else?" "I began entering tips into the database," she said. "They were being forwarded to me, and then I entered them in. Eventually, tips coming in through email were directed straight to her." You know what that means? Even the prof's tips went right into the lap of Kathy Shank. Oh, God. That's frustrating to hear. If she had questions, she would go to Unify Command. What does that mean? Liggett or Holman, right? Let's be real here. She said she reported primarily to Chief Deputy Tony Liggett, but she reported to other law enforcement as well. Yeah, you mean like Holman or Mullen? I mean all of the liars, right? We're talking about liars and corrupt law enforcement officers. That's who you reported to, Kathy Shank. When I received tip information, it went into the database. She said of her job once a tip was received. So let me ask you this. Remember we speculated that the tips were to be used to go tie up loose ends? Sounds like that's what was happening. Because you're telling me that Kathy Shank streamlined or personally pipelined all the tips directly to Liggett, Holman, and Mullen, the three least trustworthy officers in this entire fucking investigation. So you're telling me that ISP meant nothing as far as Doug Carter, Ben Rector, what's his name, David Vito. So the whole ISP really didn't matter because everything was pipelined right on into Shank. Over the years, she said she was there with there was less law enforcement present at the command center, and the location was moved to another facility. Each time, the filing cabinets went with her. In September of 2020, Shank said she was asked to scan information from each file on tips into a database and include other documents with the file folder that need to be scanned. The process took her 2 fucking years. When we moved from the city building to our current location, I brought information I had not yet gone through. A file folder box I located in a desk drawer. I began going through the file folder and I observed a handwritten tip number. That tip number coordinated with the file in Shank's filing cabinet. It had been labeled Richard Allen Whiteman. See, we're getting the whole fucking story again retold. The tip lead sheet was from February 16, 2017, a few weeks prior to Shank beginning her volunteer work. Oh, what are the odds? I didn't want to miss any tips that had not been entered into the database. I'm sure you didn't. Shank said of following up on that fucking lead. Something on that sheet caught her attention. Yes, because she's a sleuth. It stated that on February 16, 2017, a Richard Allen Whiteman self-reported being out on the trails between 12 and fucking 1:30. Can we stop saying 1:30 to 3:30? Liars. And had seen those girls, Shank said. I previously read that a young girl had been on the trails and seen a man. To me, it seemed like a possible correlation, enough to take me to a file labeled Richard Allen Whiteman. Shank compared the file to the file found in the filing cabinet. The narrative summary had been entered into the database. Shank said the narrative said Richard Allen lived on Whiteman Drive. The file also said cleared, meaning the tip had been cleared of any need for further investigation. Files are cleared with a green mark, and this had a green mark, Shank said. Tony Liggett happened to be at the command center when I found. There you go. I want to make sure you're reading the same thing I am. Am I on the wrong page? I am on the wrong page. There you go. Sorry about that. I want you to read this for yourself, okay? Look at the middle page. Okay, files are cleared with a green mark. And this had a green mark, Shank said. Files are cleared with a green mark. So Tony Liggett happened to be at the command center when I found the tip lead sheet, and I told him, she said. Later, Shank said she changed the file name to Richard Allen, and it did not go back into the file cabinet. It stayed with Liggett, who followed up with Steve Mullen. Oh, my God. An investigator with the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office. Does it sound like a fucking railroading setup to you? I honestly do not know how that lead ended up in that box. She said, yeah, I bet I could imagine how it ended up in there. It's called planted. Sounds like it was planted for you to discover. Sounds like a good line to go with. On cross-examination, defense attorney Baldwin asked Shank who made the mistake of labeling the file Richard Allen Whiteman. She replied, it wasn't me. He asked her if there were any other tips that came in concerning Richard Allen or Richard Whiteman. Shank testified she saw none. She said the tip called in by Allen included time, place, date, and why the tip was coming in. The initial self-report Allen submitted did not have a description of him included. A juror had one question for Shank. How did you determine the name was incorrect? When I went to my file, from being from this area, I knew there was a Whiteman Drive. And on the file, it said Richard Allen lives on Whiteman Drive, she said. Shank testified she knows the exact date she handed Rick Allen's tip lead sheet to Liggett. It was September 21st, 2022, her late husband's birthday. Good one. Good one there, Shank. That's a good one. That's a good one, Shank. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but she didn't read anything. She didn't read anything. Neither did her friend. Not at all. They didn't read reports. Not even when she entered the info. But somehow she read this one. because it said Richard Allen. And somehow she specifically remembers the date was September 21st, 2022, because it's my husband's birthday. And she goes and hands it right on to Liggett. Okay. So I said, who is Kathy Shank? Let me remove this for a minute. So I asked myself, who is Kathy Shank? Who is this woman? It's clear that she's a friend of the Patties. It's clear that she's a friend of Tony Liggett. It's clear that she was a DCS or child welfare worker. But awfully cozy with law enforcement. And politically active. So I said, who is this? Many women nowadays learn how to successfully juggle careers and family. Kathy Shank is one of these women. But now instead of juggling career and family, she's juggling two careers. Well, one is more an expanded hobby with a storefront. But nonetheless, she has found that she can divide herself between two loves, helping children and handcrafting flower arrangements. Making it happen, Kathy Shank takes pride in custom flower arranging and decorating in her shop on Main Street in Delphi. Shank works for Carroll County's Division of Children's Services, and last October, she opened Seasons Boutique in Delphi, but has been in preparation for business since she attended grade school in Flora. I always enjoyed handcrafting and making a product to sell, Shank said. I made pot holders and sold them with friend since birth, Cindy Jones, while in grade school, just like other kids had lemonade stands. I always enjoyed making concoctions with materials. As life went on, the hobby led to learning to knit and other processes that involved material and flowers. However, the traditional life continued for Shank. She graduated from Carroll High School and Purdue University, got a job, married, moved to Delphi, and raised a daughter, Jamie. The idea of doing this as a dedicated hobby struck me when I did flowers for Jamie's wedding in 1999, Shank said. That was when I did my first solid hour in Hobby Lobby and loved it. But I've done several of those shopping trips since then, she added. Shank said about that time her husband Bill converted 2 bedrooms in their house on Front Street in Delphi to a craft room and another into a storage room. But even that amount of space did not hold all the flowers she was accumulating. Finally, Bill offered her the use of a storefront on Main Street that housed his feed store. I recognized I needed to fill that empty nest when Jamie got married and left the area. She said, I like the idea of order, control, completeness, and creating a thing of beauty. Ah, it makes sense now. You've created the solution for the Delphi murders. Shank said she recognized her hobby had gone out of control, but she said she is comfortable with where she is with it right now. I enjoy giving my arrangements to family and friends, she explained, and I have several loyal customers. I really appreciate the patronage and support of those community members. But I'm not a florist. It's just a hobby for me. I want people to be happy with my work, and I like the feeling of providing a personal touch, she continued. I really enjoy designing arrangements for my customers. I enjoy that people like what I do. It's an esteem builder for me. Shank's shop at 114 East Main Street. Well, I'm surprised it's not 213. Is next to Shades of Brown Tanning Salon. It is open Mondays through Thursday from 11 to 9 and Fridays from 11 to 6. Customers can enter the shop through the tanning salon. What the fuck? The shop is also open on Saturdays from 10 to 3. Well, that's a full-time endeavor, Kathy Shank. God damn. The growing business offers handcrafted flower arrangements and memorials, soy candles, natural lotions, soaps, and home decor in an aromatic environment, which includes soft and relaxing background music. I'm taking this hobby-inspired business one day at a time, Shank said. That's a little cliche, I know, but it's the truth. Oh, what do we have here? November 25th, 2015. The Indiana state legislature changed some sentencing laws in the past 2 years, and it is expected more offenders will stay local rather than be transferred to the DOC. The impact of this decision could be more offenders housed in the Carroll County Jail, which is usually very close to its capacity of 34 inmates. The state is encouraging all counties to establish community correction programs where a program is not present, which includes Carroll County. Carroll County Superior Court Judge Curtis Fouts, that name should sound familiar, has taken the lead to establish a community corrections program board of directors, which is mandated by the Indiana Code. The newly formed 19-member group met for the first time November 12th, 2015. Judge Fouts was elected to lead the group and the county's probation department. Head Judge Shigley was named vice chair. Superior Court reporter Tammy McLean will serve as the group's secretary for at least 6 months. Fouts explained a grant for funding the program must be written and submitted by the end of January. A subcommittee including Fouts, Shigley, local attorneys Pat Manahan and Nick McClelland, who was not present at the meeting, local resident and former DOC or DCS case manager Kathy Shank, and a representative from the county prosecutor's office was named to expedite the process to write the grant proposal for the group. If approved and funded, the program could begin mid-July of next year. Fouts explained, the Community Corrections Program will include intensive daily reporting and can offer additional programs as funds permit. He said the advisory board could contract with an outside therapist to provide services and could also decide to join with other counties to form a work release program. A set of preliminary bylaws was distributed and the group will formally adopt the document at the next meeting in mid-January 2016. Fouts said the program is on track for funding with the DOC, but it is not guaranteed money. He said after reviewing the grant application and discussing amongst themselves, the advisory board could decide not to move forward with the program in Carroll County. Fouts said he has been assured by the DOC money will be available for the program. It is his intention the program be budget neutral. In fact, it will not, or in that it will not be a burden to the taxpayer. So let's back this shit up. We're talking about pipelining of money. Fouts, McClelland, Kathy Shank, listen, who's going to write the fucking grant? Fouts, Shigley, Pat Manahan, Nick McClelland, and Kathy Shank. But it gets better. Remember, this is a year before the murders. The 19-member Community Corrections Advisory Board, established in March, include Judge Curtis Fouts, Judge Benjamin Diener, Sheriff Tobe Lesenby, Prosecutor Rob Ives, Probation Officer Justin Shigley, Council Member Steve Pearson, Chief of Police Steve Mullen, Mayor Randy Strasser, Mayor-elect Shane Evans, DCS Director Jennifer Johnson, High School Principal Anne Marie Circle, Wabash Valley Alliance Director Danielle Majors, Attorneys Pat Manahan, Nicholas McClelland, Community Members John Chapman, Kathy Shank, Jeff Wise, Mary DeFord, Wick Widener, and Lance Alter. What does this sound like to you? And we're expected to believe that Kathy Shank is just some little old lady who happened to find the tip. So you understand what this is. This is the establishment of a community corrections program, which is huge money to come into the county. And who are we talking about? Look at these fucking names. Half of these names are involved in the Delphi scam. I bet you they're sorry that this article exists. Let's read the names again, because I'm an asshole, and I'm sure I'll get some death threats from this stream, because I always do. Curtis Fouts, Ben Diener, Tobe Lesenby, Robert Ives, Justin Shigley, Steve Pearson, Steve Mullen, Randy Strasser, Shane Evans, Jennifer Johnson, Anne Marie Circle, high school principal, Danielle Majors, Patrick Manahan, Nick McClelland, John Chapman, Kathy Shank, Jeff Wise, Mary DeFord, Rick Widener, and Lance Alter. But Kathy Shank's just some innocent little old lady volunteer who coincidentally happened to find the tip that solved the Delphi murders. The date on that article, sweetheart, is November 25th, 2015. Let me show you the opening page of that article so you can look at it yourself. It's called Newest County Department Has First Meeting by Debbie Lowe, Carroll County Comet, November 25th, 2015. All right, so I'm going to keep showing you stuff. We're not done with her, don't worry. I decided to take a little detour and show you Marv's and Frank Meister's stupid asses celebrating the guilty verdict of Richard Allen because Troll Farm does matter. Okay. If you look closely, you'll see Drunk Marv doing her victory dance at the announcement of the 4 guilty verdicts. You'll see Frank Meister yelling and screaming with his fist pumping in the air with a whole bunch of other bloodlusters. This is what we're dealing with here with the supposed journalist covering Delphi, right? The fucking journalist, right? How much time we got? It's 2:39. All right. I'll just continue. I'll go faster. All right. This was how Wish TV covered it. Testimony from Kathy Shank. Court was back in session Thursday with the jury entering the courtroom at 9:06. The judge shared that the jury on Wednesday night could briefly access their phones, call their families, view work emails, and check the fucking news. Let me. So you're telling me that with a bunch of fucking jurors with smartphones, you're trying to have me believe that in the privacy of their own hotel rooms, they can check their emails, call their families, but not look at the Delphi coverage? At 9:08 a.m., the state called Kathy Shank. Shank acted as a secretary for the investigation. Oh, we're about to find out more. She would take tipsters' names and information. Shank said she was surrounded by 50 or more law enforcement officers while working the investigation. Shank told the jury she was given banker's boxes of reports related to the investigation and was asked to organize the reports. Eventually, those reports took up 5 fucking filing cabinets. Shank said she created a filing system with the names of people of interest, tipsters, etc. Shank told the jury that in 2020, she was asked to scan every fucking file from the filing cabinets into an electronic database. She said it took her 2 years to do so. Who's where's your money coming from during this time? Shank told the jury she did not read the entire content of every file she entered. Really, why is that such a narrative point? Okay. She told the jury that when investigators were moving to their headquarters, she came across some handwritten tips. One of them said Richard Allen Whiteman had self-reported being on the trails and the girls had seen him at the same time. The tip was dated February 16th, 2017. Oh, let me show you. Shank said she pulled a written tip about Allen being interviewed in 2017 and changed the file name to Richard Allen. She told the jury she made this discovery on September 21st, 2022. Shank told the jury that her job was not to decide if a tip should be followed up on, simply that she was organized. So why in the fuck did you bring it to Liggett even though it said cleared? Under cross-examination, Shank said the mistake on Allen's name was made before she joined the investigation. Andy Baldwin asked Shank, was there no other tip, to your knowledge, that involved Richard Allen? Shank replied, to my knowledge, no. She told the jury there were so many tips, she couldn't remember individuals. Baldwin asked, but you remember if there was a tip about a man covered in mud and blood walking on 300 North, right? Shank said she could not remember specifics. The jury asked Shank, how do you determine the name was incorrect on the file? Shank replied, well, because I'm from the area, I know there's a Whiteman Drive. Testimony from Dan Dulin with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. You know, the guys who were out there searching for the bodies when they were staging the bodies. Okay. At 9:59 a.m. Thursday, the state called Dan Dulin to the stand. Dulin is a captain with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. Fuck all the fucking titles. Had been a conservation officer for 26 years. Dulin worked across the state, but had worked in Carroll County area for 10 years. He told the jury he'd become involved with the investigation on February 16th, 2017. You realize that's just 2 days. All right, let's continue. Dulin said he was tasked with assisting with and following up on leads. Yeah, and you know what? I know a couple who were doing the same thing, and they're not a piece of shit like you. He told the jury he received a lead on Allen, and Dulin contacted Allen by phone. Dulin told the jury he requested to meet Allen at his home, then police headquarters. Allen refused and requested they meet at the grocery store parking lot because he was already out there. Dulin said he met with Allen in a grocery store parking lot on February 18th. Dulin told jury they met, spoke about the lead, and Allen said he was on the trails on February 13th, 2017. Yeah, and Dulin says between 1:30 and 3:30, but Allen says between 12 and 1:30. Let's be fucking accurate here. All right. He also told Dulin he saw 3 girls at Freedom Bridge. Yeah, not 4. Not 4. Okay. All right, so what next? Dulin said Allen told him he was clear that he parked at the old CPS building and walked to Freedom Bridge, then went to the Monon High Bridge. Dulin said Allen told him he was looking at a stock ticker while walking. Dulin said he took handwritten notes, which included Allen's phone number. Dulin said he wrote the notes up into a Word document, turned it into investigator. So where's a fucking handwritten notes, Dulin? Where's a fucking recording? Dulin said the jury or told the jury that in September 2022, he got a call asking if he remembered interacting with Allen. Dulin said it didn't sound familiar, but he would look through his records. He said he found his documents on his 2017 interview with Allen and found a fishing license for Allen and his wife. The licenses had contact information. Dulin told the jury, this is where he goes to slander again. Allen's fishing license had his height listed as 5 feet 4 inches, but it was changed in April 2017 to 5 foot 6 inches. It means he killed Dabby and Libby. Oh my God, he's guilty. Dulin also told the jury his weight changed on his license to be lighter. 13 pounds were subtracted because no one ever fluctuates in weight. Doesn't make them a murderer of 2 little children. Just like backing into a parking spot doesn't make you a murderer of 2 little children. Just like owning several phones or several knives or a gun or any fucking thing or any piece of clothing does not make you a murderer of 2 little children. Can we stop with it? Prosecutor McClellan asked Dulin if Allen was in the courtroom. Dulin described Allen. 10:35, Attorney Brad Rossi began cross-examining Dulin. Rossi asked Allen. Rossi said Allen called law enforcement in February. Rossi said Allen suggested meeting at the grocery store because he was already on his way there, dickhead. Dulin said he could not recall the appearance or demeanor of Allen during the meeting. Of course not. But obvious, like I've made the point already, it's obvious that no red flags were thrown up because you cleared it. You didn't give a shit about it. No red flags were thrown up. There was nothing out of the ordinary. No big deal. Rossi said the handwritten notes would be better evidence of the meeting, wouldn't they? Than the electronic report. And that Dulin said in a March 2024 deposition that he had no independent recollection of what Allen said to him in their 2017 meeting. Rossi said that anyone could purchase a fishing license for another person. Dulin testified that he was also in charge of calling phone numbers that pinged off cell towers during the time of the crime. He said he canvassed the crime scene the day before he met with Allen. Dulin told the jury that while he was at the scene, he found branches piled up with blood on them. See, this is what everyone wants us to forget, okay? Because what they all want you to forget is the shit you should worry about. Dulin told the jury that while he was at the scene, remember, this would have been before meeting with Allen. The day before meeting with Allen, while at the scene, he found branches piled up with blood on them. Rossi asked Dulin if he saw deer standing in the woods near the bridge. Dulin said there were. Rossi asked if it is not uncommon to find shell casings in the woods. Of course, corrupt Judge Fran Gull stepped in and said to Rossi, if you're going to impeach him properly. Rossi asked Dulin if he was familiar with Smith & Wesson. Dulin said he was. At 11:06, McClellan asked Dulin about the credit card used to purchase Allen's fishing licenses. Dulin replied that he did not know what username was used to purchase the licenses. Dulin told the jury in redirect by the defense that he had not thought of Allen between 2017 and 2022. You know why? Because no red flags were thrown up. At 11:13, the jury asked Dulin, what was Allen's hair like? Dulin replied he didn't know. Yeah, he didn't remember shit. Let's be clear. Court takes a break. Okay. This part you may not know about, so I'll read this to you. Hold on. Sorry, I needed a piece of chocolate. I really do apologize for yelling. I'm trying to wind down, okay? I think you need to hear from this Steve Mullen shit. Yeah, good point. Well, it's actually fucking interesting, Christina, that you caught that. Good fucking point. Something ain't adding up here. But you know what don't add up even more than that? Why would crime scene techs leave sticks with blood evidence on them in the woods? Someone want to explain that to me? Thank you, Wanda. You're very sweet. Thank you. Let me read this for you. Thank you, Christina. That is an amazing observation there. And I hope everyone takes note of what Christina's saying. Mullen said he got a call from Richard Allen on September 21st, 2022. And then he reached out to Dulin to ask if there was any additional info. Mullen said Dulin forwarded information to him, Carroll County Sheriff Tony Liggett. After learning there were 2 cars registered to Allen, he went to Hoosier Harvest Store to look for them. He told the jury that Tony Liggett went to CVS and found Allen's car, and they looked for it on the Harvest Store footage. So they went stalk him at work. They saw the car. Then they went to look at the footage for it. Mullen said Liggett looked at the video and found the vehicle matching the description. The timestamp was 1:27 p.m. on February 13, 2017. Baldwin interjected, telling Mullen that it's only your opinion that your car matches. Mullen responded he believes in the car in the video was Allen's. He said the general shape of the car was the same, as were the taillights, bumper rims, black sports rims with spokes. But the thing is this. All you can do is generally make out the shape of the car and the color on the video. That's been confirmed by these very same officers. All right, let's continue. The jury was shown a 9-second video of the vehicle as it passes from east to west, followed by close-ups of the car. Some of the car's major identifying features include the license plate and vehicle VIN, vehicle identification number, were not visible. Okay, neither was a driver. The time on the security camera footage and info from Dulin's meeting match up, according to News 8's Kyla Russell. All right. Mullen said he and Liggett went to Allen's house on October 13th, 2022, and told him they wanted to ask questions about the Delphi investigation. He told the jury that Allen agreed to go to the police department and was taken there in an unmarked car in plain clothes. Okay. They arrived at the police station where Mullen said, oops. Oh, God damn it. Sorry. Lost my spot. I'm almost done with this. I'm sorry. Okay. They arrived at the police station where Mullen said he asked Allen what he was doing on February 13th, 2017. Allen said he went to his mom's house in Peru, returned to Delphi and picked up a jacket, went to the trails around noon, left around 1:30 p.m. According to Mullen, Allen told police he drove his Ford Focus car to the old DCS building, parked there, and went to the trails. He said he was wearing a blue-black Carhartt jacket, blue jeans, and a skull cap. Mullen said Allen told police he saw 3 girls on the bridge and was looking at his stock ticker. Allen then said one of the girls appeared to be older and that she was babysitting. Mullen told the jury he showed Allen a photo of Bridge Guy and that Allen responded, if the photo was taken with the girls' cameras, or the girls, that means the victim's camera, it couldn't be him. The former police chief said Allen agreed to let him look at the phone, but then got angry and walked out of the interview. After that, Allen was taken back to his house. Court took a lunch break at 12:06. Okay. Thank you, Samantha. All right, let's look at this next one. Thank you. Are you guys ready? You guys ready for this one? Clerical error may have led police to overlook Richard Allen in the Delphi case. Delphi, Indiana. Why now? That's one of the biggest questions surrounding the arrest of Richard Allen, who's charged with murdering Abby Williams and Libby German in February 2017. It appears a clerical error may be to blame. The investigation has been ongoing for more than 5 years. And while police have released pieces of evidence, including a pair of sketches and an audio recording and a grainy photo of the killer, they didn't arrest Allen until late October 2022. We've since learned that investigators actually interviewed Allen in 2017. He told them he'd been on the Monon High Bridge and the Freedom Bridge between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m., according to you, on the day of the murders. The timing matched the window in which the girls died, according to you. It appears the information had been essentially lost. Both an investigative source and the Murder Shits podcast said the 2017 interview with Allen was overlooked due to a clerical error. Someone mislabeled or misfiled tip information in the system, which means it didn't show up in the correct location during the search. The FBI says its review of the matter showed that FBI employees correctly followed established procedures. Why is I've messed my glasses up. What does this mean? This is where the FBI said, F that, we didn't do shit, we didn't fuck shit up, there was no error, everything is copacetic and legit. Whatever fucking Carroll County is telling you is bullshit. Are you putting 2 and 2 together? Because if this whole situation was staged or a setup or a plant where someone took this thing, planted it for Kathy Shank to find, with or without her foreknowledge, it would make sense that FBI doesn't have a part in it, right? Again, read it. It's above the girls here. The FBI says its review of the matter showed that FBI employees correctly followed established procedures. That means they didn't fuck up. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad we've settled that about the FBI. As the case stalled, police went back to the very beginning of the investigation. That's when they discovered the interview with Allen that prompted them to take a closer look. That sounds like bullshit too. Hold up. So what's the story going to be? Because that's what the story that you were saying a couple years ago. Well, why is the story that Kathy Shank is telling in court different than this story? Okay, so first it was the FBI fucked up. Then the FBI said, no, we didn't fuck up. So now you're saying it's the Doug Carter situation. Police went to the beginning, and that's when they discovered the interview with Allen that prompted them to take a closer look. No, that didn't happen either. This is all bullshit. Indiana State Police announced his arrest on Monday, October 31st, although Fox 59 learned about the arrest the preceding Friday. What? Did you catch that? Because remember I said Fox 59 is the most corrupt, biased news coverage of the Delphi case. How did they learn a week before this arrest of Richard Allen? The press conference was on October 31st, another occult day for all of you out there who ain't woke yet. But somehow, the preceding Friday, Fox 59 found out, and so did Murder Sheet. By the way I know that Murder Sheet did is because I remember someone who was literally there heard with their own two ears Doug Carter shake the hands of Murder Sheet and say, thank you for keeping your word. I'm sure some of you know that story. And you know what? I'm going to skip the rest of this article because I want you to get to this. Good old heart, 7780. It doesn't take much to understand. Okay, let me clear my mind here. There was no mislabeled or misfiled tip information in the system, says Old Heart. It doesn't take much to understand how the Delphi Task Force investigators ended up at Richard Allen's backyard burn pit. If you look at where the DTF was in the days leading up to the investigators using flashlights and floodlights to sift and pick their way through this formerly never heard of suspect's backyard ash heap, you would know that it was never about a suddenly found piece of misfiled information. The Delphi Task Force and the county DA couldn't admit who tipped Allen. They needed to make up a lie. It's almost as if the Delphi Task Force plays into this whole notion of the Keystone cops bumbling their way towards catching a killer, just like the FBI losing important evidence through their mishandling of a security system hard drive. We have inept FBI office workers misfiling a piece of paperwork that had Bridge Guy's own admission he was there on the bridge in his blue jacket and dad blue jeans. Quote, both an investigative source and the Murder Shits podcast said the 2017 interview with Allen was overlooked due to a clerical error, close quotations. Someone mislabeled or misfiled tip information in the system, which means it didn't show up in the correct location during a data search. The FBI says its review of the matter showed that FBI employees correctly followed established procedures. So there's a few things here. What is he saying? He's saying, Oldhart is saying, someone tipped in Allen, but the task force and Nick McClelland couldn't admit who it was. FBI says, fuck no, we ain't lose shit. Just like we didn't destroy the hard drive. Of course, we all know who the murder shit's shills for. So that was the whole shit that the murder shit had come out and try to establish that narrative was to protect Nicholas McClelland, because that's always their objective. They are the official mouthpiece of law enforcement. So it's just the fact that it had been such a controversy and a cover-up with some fabricated narrative story to go along with it. It's bullshit. It's just more and more and more bullshit. Every single aspect of this case. All right. Well, sorry. Here's where people are going to get mad. But some of you are going to get very, very happy. Because like I said, I called this show Shanked. Well, those of you who got a little savvy, little street smarts here, you know what shanked means. You know what shanked means, right? What happens if you get shanked? Alice and Charles Shank, Eastern Star and Freemason. Alice A. Dunphy Shank, 92, of Delphi, passed away at 5:15 a.m. Monday, August 9th, 2010, at St. Elizabeth Healthcare in Delphi. She had been a resident there since June 21st. Born June 9th, 1918 in Clinton, Illinois, she was daughter of Robert N. and Alula Kelly Dunphy. Her marriage was on April 29th, 1939 in Decatur, Illinois, to Charles W. Shank, Sr., who preceded her in death in 1991. Mrs. Shank was a 1936 graduate of Decatur High School in Decatur, Illinois. She was the bookkeeper for the family business C.W. Shank Construction Company in Delphi. Mrs. Shank was a member of the First Presbyterian Church in Delphi. She served as a past matron and past district deputy of the Order of Eastern Star, Rose Chapter, number 36. Surviving are a son, Charles William Bill Shank Jr., wife Kathy of Delphi, a granddaughter, Jamie Shank Riley, husband Dan of Durham, North Carolina, a great-granddaughter, Inara Riley, a sister, Mary Alkery of Buchanan, Michigan, a niece, Ellen Sampson, husband Roger of Buchanan, and two nephews, Ed McClelland of Decatur, Illinois, and Lee McClelland, wife Karen of California. Preceding her death, were grandson C.W. Biff Shank, a granddaughter, a brother, Robert, and sister, Carol. Okay. Service will be at 11 a.m. on today, Wednesday, at Abbott Funeral Home in Delphi. The Reverend Bill McLean will officiate. Visitation will be from 9 a.m. until time of service. Burial will follow at the Masonic Cemetery in Delphi. Okay. Charles Shank. Charles William Bill Shank, 73, of Delphi, died Wednesday, October 16, 2013 at 4:50 p.m. at his residence. After a battle with cancer, he was born September 21st, 1940 in Decatur, Illinois, to the late Charles William and Alice Dunphy Shank Sr. His marriage was to Kathy J. Butcher in Flora on February 14, 1977, and she survives. He was a 1958 graduate of Delphi High School and attended Valparaiso University. He worked for over 50 years for C.W. Shank Construction in Delphi, started by his father, which Bill owned and operated until his retirement in July 2013. He was a former Mason with the Delphi Masonic Lodge and a former member of the Delphi JC's Club. He enjoyed his horses, raising them, and going on trail rides locally and in other states. He was an avid woodworker and loved his many flower gardens around his home. Bill was a man's man, hardworking, straight shooter, friend for life by those who knew him. He dearly loved his wife, daughter, and granddaughter, Inara, surviving wife, Kathy J. Shank of Delphi, daughter, Jamie, and Daniel Riley of Durham, North Carolina, daughter, Inora Quinn Riley, preceded in death by a son, C.W. Shank III. Services. There will be no services, private, family only. Okay. Memorial contributions may be made to the Guardian Angel Foundation, Kokomo, Indiana. Charles Shank III, class of 1978. Charles W. Biff Shank III, 43, of Indianapolis, died unexpectedly at 10 a.m. on February 5, 2004. Born in Lafayette on April 29, 1960. He was the son of Charles W. Bill Jr. and Shirley Lentner Shank. He graduated from Delphi High School in 1978. Received his CDL certification from Schneider National Truck Driving School. He worked for Cisco Foods in Indianapolis for several years in the food supply delivery. He volunteered for the Indianapolis Salvation Army Soup Kitchen and for several Thanksgiving holidays, helping serve the needy. He was baptized and formerly attended First Presbyterian Church in Delphi. He was an avid NASCAR racing fan, especially of Terry Labonte. He attended many races and enjoyed collecting. Surviving are his father, stepmother, Charles Bill Jr., and Kathy Shank of Delphi, his mother and stepfather, Shirley and Jim Wilson of Lafayette, sister, Jamie Riley of Durham, half-brother, Aaron Wilson of Lafayette, grandparents, Alice Shank of Delphi and Robert and Georgia Lentner of Lafayette, a step-grandmother, Naomi Butcher of Florida. He was preceded in death by a sister. His services were February 9 at Abbott Funeral Home with a burial at Masonic Cemetery in Delphi. Naomi Butcher, 89, of Florida, died 5 p.m. November 9, 2008 at St. Elizabeth Medical Center, Lafayette. Born January 3rd, 1919, near Bringhurst. She was the daughter of Harry and Cora Aspall Quinn. She was married April 13, 1941 to Meredith Butcher, who preceded her in death on July 13, 1997. She was a 1936 graduate of Flora High School. She was a homemaker. Mrs. Butcher was a member of the Flora First Christian Church and was past president of Beta Alpha chapter of Psi Iota Xi, Flora, and a 50-year member and past worthy matron of Flora Chapter 490, Order of Eastern Star. She was a former member of Flora Monroe Township Library Board and an avid reader. Surviving are one daughter, Kathy Shank, husband Bill of Delphi, one granddaughter, Jamie Riley, husband Dan of Durham, North Carolina, one great granddaughter, Inara Riley of Durham, three nieces, Jennifer Archibald of Flora, Connie Holmean of Connecticut, Christy Martinovich of Michigan, four great nieces and nephews, Stephanie Good, Lindsay Calhoun, Kip Podluski, and Randy Holmean, and seven great nieces and nephews. She was preceded in death by two sisters, one granddaughter, and one step grandson. Services are today at 11 a.m. at Baker Funeral Home in Flora. Pastor Sam Davenport officiating. Visitation will be from 9 to 11. Prior to service, burial will be in Maple Lawn Cemetery, Florida. Okay. So why am I showing you this? Why am I showing you all this? Who is Kathy Shank? Like I said, she's not just some little old lady. That's what they want you to believe. That's what they want you to believe. And unfortunately, it's just not believable. Remember, I need to show you this again before we go. Because with that knowledge of the embedded nature of this family in Eastern Star and Freemason lodges, okay, this family in this community is grandfathered in, then this makes more sense here. Curtis Fouts, Benjamin Diener, Robert Ives, Steve Mullen, Shane Evans, Nicholas McClellan, Kathy Shank. What here have I made up? Do you think I time traveled and went back in time and wrote these articles in the Carroll County Comment? Do you think that I wrote those obituaries? Do you think that I wrote and created this advisory board for the community corrections, which includes half the fucking big players in the Delphi case? And I haven't even shown you the photographs with McClelland and Brad Holder and Son and a couple YouTubers and all the Masonic Lodge members that we have documentation of. Like I said, shanked. Richard Allen has been shanked. Now, let's just hope for his well-being. That's all we can do. So, That was my presentation on Kathy Shank and this entire bullshit narrative that we're led to believe. I think, like some of you in the chat are saying, we are looking at the tentacles square in the eye. These are the tentacles. Your prosecutor, your members of the ISP, and the investigators for the prosecutor, your judge, your families, your other officers, your ISP head, your ISP officers, your Kathy Shanks. Delphi. Mhm. One more question before I go. What are the Masons doing protecting the cartel in central Indiana? Can someone explain that, how that works and why? And who would have ever thought such a thing? I don't know. You know, I like reading this one post. In 2014 and 2015, Derek German was arrested and convicted of multiple counts of manufacturing and distribution of methamphetamine. This is hardly his first offense, too. Well, after being labeled a recidivist criminal by the courts, he took a plea that saw him cooperate with the DEA, FBI, and ISP. Instead of getting 20 years, he got a mere 1,100 days. Well, our favorite little judge, he suspended the sentence of the presiding judge and commuted his 1,100-day sentence to just 1 day time served. Wow, what a nice guy, right? Wrong. You see, Derek got his supply from Gabriel Ellis, who has ties to the Sinaloa drug cartel out of Chicago. Ellis is a bad man with bad intentions, a child predator, and a violent felon. One who has at least 10 previous criminal charges throughout the years, all drug, sexual violence, and child predator related. But get this, Fouts ensured that he was never locked up. So he would get a few months here and there for charges that should see him locked up for years. Keep in mind that Fouts jailed 80-plus-year-old Ron fucking Logan for 4 years for a driving offense. Of course, you see what I'm getting at. Anyways, Ellis, in my opinion, sought revenge with Derek through his daughter. This is why Libby was desecrated like that. Only months earlier, another girl, Karina McClurkin, an 18-year-old from Kokomo, went missing, last seen near this piece of trash. Keep in mind, his vehicle at the time, a white Pontiac Grand Am, was likely the one also described by investigators as being parked at the former CPS lot near the trails on February 13th, 2017. It's our job to point the finger at Carroll County, who have done nothing but work to protect themselves by stalling closure for the families and for the public. And that's Matt Sullivan. Sorry. That's Matt Sullivan. See, Matt pretty much encapsulates it very simply. I take a long time to say things, but what are these people protecting? Willing to sacrifice Richard Allen to protect. And all of this over the murder of two little girls, two kids. And tomorrow, they finalize the crime with the sentencing of Richard Allen for the murders of Abby and Libby. When will we get a RICO? Will Richard Allen get another trial? Will he be allowed to present a defense? I don't know. You never know what to expect with this. It's been truly bewildering because every time you think they won't push it a step further, they do. So, Shanked. We know Richard Allen has conceptually been shanked. And we pray that he will not be physically shanked, which it's not beyond them to do. And I pray that it never happens. But I don't have much faith in these people here. The thing that I know is to expect the unexpected. Because they continuously push the bar further and further. Like I said, what happened with that jury at the hotel? What happened with that jury behind closed doors? Why have none of them stepped forward to share with the public how much they feel that they did the right thing and put this monster away for life? I want to thank everyone who's come tonight. I know it's been a long-winded presentation, and I hope that you found value in it. And anyway, I'd like to ask you to support the channel. Hit the Cash App, it's tagged. Buy me a coffee. We got a GoFundMe that's active. Super chat, super thanks. If you're on the replay, hit a like, leave some comments down below. And please just continue to talk to people about this case because, see, I truly do feel that the whole objective here was to make this go away for life, to make it disappear. Remember, it was never supposed to go to trial. They were going to force a plea deal. The thing is, they weren't able to accomplish that. So all they got instead was some confessions. So it was forced to go to trial. And tomorrow, we have the sentencing. That's a result of that. So I would not expect anything but the maximum. Okay. Bottom line, I hate to break it to you. Knowing this judge and how everything has worked, I'll tell you this much. Let's look at the time here on this screen for you guys. I'll do it while we prepare to leave here. Let's see. You basically need to look at this and say to yourselves, let me see which page it's on. He's getting 130 years. Okay, because look, this is page 1 here, sentencing memorandum. Page 2 here. Page 2 here. In the last paragraph, it says, additionally, Richard Allen is 52 years old. Richard is facing 45 to 130 years of imprisonment. So here's what you're going to get. Yeah. You're going to get 130 years of imprisonment. Okay. Then you're going to get the bullshit that's going to happen at the press conference. And what's going to happen at the press conference? Let's read that too. Okay. Because I don't know if you guys missed this today. This is sure to be a fucking a buzzkill. Okay. Let me see. Oh man, did I lose it? I'll read it to you. This is what you're going to get tomorrow. Post-sentencing press conference. Location, Wabash and Erie Canal Conference and Interpretive Center. 30 minutes after the conclusion of the sentencing hearing, representatives from the prosecutor's office, Indiana State Police, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, and the victims' families. You guys ready for that? Are you guys ready for that? They're going to give them 130 years. Then they're going to get their ass on the TV screen and say, "Today is the day. Abby, Libby." You get it? They're going to lay it on thick for the television screens to be rebroadcast on Fox 59, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They never miss an opportunity to take advantage of a bad situation. So they will. So yeah. So expect the worst. But do it with good spirits, okay? Because like I said, there will be an appeal. There's no question about it. There will be. I want to say thank you to Ninja Warrior Assassin for the super chat. Thank you, Ninja Warrior Assassin. Thank you very much. Who else said thank you? Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. I know it makes no sense. It makes no sense. All right. Yeah. Yeah. They're all evil. They're all fucking terrible, man. Sheridan Tibbetts, terrific presentation. I didn't say much because I was concentrating on all the info. Well, thank you. Please reread it. And I may end up posting some of those receipts for you to have on your own, but they're findable on the internet. Okay. All right. Thank you, Spike Dog. Ives not testifying. Yeah, he's an ultimate disappointment. Ultimate disappointment. Okay. So I love you guys, and I thank you so much, and thanks for supporting the channel. Let me reread all these people who gave contributions: Jake Brooks, Nino Dino, Spike Dog, Heather Brown, Wanda Elburn, Samantha, and Ninja Warrior Assassin. Thank you for sending the super chats, and uh, and everyone else for participating in the chat and hanging for the 3.5 hours here. We've been here a while, so thanks everyone for doing that. The plan for tomorrow is to have a very special show, and I really hope it works out. I cannot promise you that'll work out because that it will, because I can never promise you that which I don't have complete control over. So I won't do that, but I'll say that I expect to have a very interesting show tomorrow if all things work out. Okay, so I'll leave it that way, and hopefully it works out, and we do have a great show tomorrow night. So look for that. But God bless you all. I just want to say thank you to Mary Martin. Okay. Pardon me. My throat is gone now. All right. Carla Ann, thank you. Yes, everyone hit the like, please. Jake Brooks' sister never saw her camera she didn't like. Protagonist loves being the one to help drop off her sister to roast. Ugh. Yeah, narcissistic fucking crazy shit. Okay. I know luminoling that bedroom that was repaired and repainted will come up to something. Mike Patty is evil. Watch for the handshakes when they congratulate each other. What's up, Heather? I'm right. Yeah. What am I right about? He's going to get the max, and all of the family's going to get on the fucking press conference and lay it on thick. And by family, of course, it doesn't mean who it should. You know what family means? It's going to be Mike, Patty, and Anna Williams. That's Patty's and Williams. It's going to be the family. Untamable. Yeah, so that gets televised, right? Exactly, Rebecca. That's going to get televised so they can lay it on thick. But of course, we couldn't see the fucking trial. Yeah. It's a total nightmare. Yeah, and they're going to lay it on thick because they're upset now. See, what I hoped was true, that Richard Allen wouldn't go, because I was expecting, these victim statements. They're going to have Mike Patty up there and Becky Patty and lay on the emotion and blah 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 to justify the max sentence that she's going to hand out. But maybe what they'll do instead is keep that mute and lay it on thick at the press conference, because that's going to be televised. That's where they really want to have like the cameras rolling. So I'm actually surprised that this insane judge didn't allow cameras for the sentencing for that very reason. I figured that's what she would do, that she would allow the cameras in just to broadcast like the sad violin victim statement that they're going to theatrically get up there and lay out for everyone. But maybe instead they intend to do that in front of the cameras at the conference center. So anyway, I'm just a pessimist when it comes to these people. So that's the bottom line. Anyway, I sure do love that all of you were here and you stuck around to the end, and it was a good show. And hopefully it was a little enlightening for most of you or some of you. God bless you all. Thank you, True Grit Crime, Spike Dog, Woman Doing. I want to say Michelle, Wendy, Ninja Warrior, Woman Doing, Commentator Root, everybody in here, Chrissy, Heather Brown, Jake Brooks, Mino Dino, Nobody Nothing, Silenced, Untamable, all you awesome folks here. Valencia's mom, what's up? Untamable, I already said that, I think. Catastrophe, Corner Piece, what up, Corner Piece? Who else is in here? Michelle N. All right, Mary Martin, Carla Ann, Rolo Mata, what's up? Rolo Mota, Mother McReady, Rebecca Green, Trial Junkie, what up? Housebroken. All right, D England, what's up? K, what's up? Little Boy Blue 78, what's up? Everyone in here, thank you so much. I'm not going that far back in time. Indy Cindy, what's up? I see you up there. Indy Cindy. Everyone who was here, I truly appreciate it. Special shout out to Alex Voorhees. Thank you too, Alex. You know what I'm talking about, brother. Oh, hey, Christina, good night. Big JD, what's up, Big JD? Shout out to Big JD. That's my main girl there, Big JD. Partner in crime, Big JD. What's up? All right. Hey, man, couldn't do it without you all. So thank you so much. God bless everyone. Love your kids, love your wife, love your husband, love your people. Okay, that's what I'm gonna go do now. Spend time with my little one. It's his bedtime. I gotta go give him kisses, tuck him in nice and tight because it's cold out here. So I'll see all you guys hopefully tomorrow with an amazing show if it all works out. All right. Thank you, CL, Chrissy, and all you others. Okay. God bless you all. Don't talk to cops. Yeah. And hit the like on the way out while we let it roll. Okay. We're going to let it roll. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.